Welcome. Hi. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Adelle Rewerts, and I'm a principal consultant and senior user experience architect with online business systems. But what I do is get beautiful ideas out of brilliant minds like yours and into people's hands. As a UX architect, I help cross-functional teams turn insight into ideas into products that work for businesses and users by starting from the user's point of view. The user-centered approach is not new. Every designer, from the first sign painter to toy makers to Steve Jobs, knows that you can't achieve business success if people don't want what you're selling. Now that technology is pervasive, the market is crowded, and even the way we approach work is changing. Consumers, stakeholders, and employees have a real choice. Now more than ever, we need to build products that work for our customers, for our businesses, and for our teams. Today I'll share with you what I've learned about kickstarting digital products from wherever you are in the process, whether you're exploring new ideas or needing to enable liftoff on a project already in flight. I've seen it all, and over the years I've discovered some practical ways to make traction and enjoy the process. We'll talk about human-centered ways to rally your team, to meet the market, and to stay sane while you're doing it. As an example, our team recently helped a client launch a coaching platform. It began with 3 people and a, hey, it'd be great, to a fully realized digital platform that allowed them to gain investment before it was even built. They expanded and served their clients in a completely new way. The team felt so empowered by the product vision process that they literally asked me, can we use this on everything? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. So where do you even start? As Simon Sinek would say, start with why. Why are you here? Why are you watching this video? Why are you thinking or acting on a digital product idea? And what would its realization mean for you? I call this your North Star. If this was a movie, it would be your hero's call. It's your reason for doing this. And just like early explorers and wayfarers, your North Star is the direction you're headed. I found that when my clients can articulate their North Star, it creates more focus. It helps them to communicate clearly to other people, and it creates a purpose that inspires colleagues, employees, and stakeholders to rally behind. It even helps with early prioritization. So, when we have this North Star, I write it down, and I reference it at every meeting. It is a reminder to myself and to everyone on the project team of what we're aiming to achieve together and why it matters. Everything from our tiniest user story to our grandest feature needs to be rooted in this. Because when one of us gets a little lost in the details, we can look up to the North Star and find that alignment, so we can all move in the same direction together. So if the North Star is the direction that you're heading, your product vision is your destination. Maybe even just the first leg of your journey. Where are you going? What will that place be like? It is the outcome you want to achieve at the end of this phase of the project. Your product roadmap is how you'll get there. Often when people talk about agile product delivery, I get the sense that they just think teams meander about and make things. But agile needs direction. Direction, but not dictation. That subtle difference is important. If you're too prescriptive, you'll get completely sidelined by any bump that comes along. If you're too loose, your team won't know how to support you, and it will become an exercise in cat herding. But if you get it just right, your team will know where they're going and be empowered to make day-to-day decisions on the best way to get there. And that's important because modern teams need more than just directions. We're not in that old MapQuest era anymore. We need a Google Maps level, adaptable plan that helps your team make choices about the directions they take. When your team is empowered, they become invested in your success too. Getting these foundational elements, your North Star, your product vision, and your roadmap in place is important. A digital product isn't just some lines of code. It's the manifestation of the impact you're trying to create. It's a new dynamic you're trying to make with your customers. It's your culture brought to life. And it's brought about by the people implementing it, your product team, you, your customers, your employees, your allies, your partners. This type of change can't happen in a vacuum. It needs people. Your product vision needs people. And that's why the most important thing you can do is get people to care. My goal for this session is to share with you the process of translating your North Star into a digital product vision and roadmap that people can rally behind so you can get started realizing your own ideas. Now I'll be straight with you. This is easier said than done. You can write down a bunch of things on a sticky note on a wall, but if we don't spend a bit of time validating them with reality, all you will have are sticky notes. The key to success in product delivery is to ensure your vision and roadmap are grounded in reality. Or you might feel a bit like this scene from Friends, pivoting all over the place. Especially if you're not a startup. If you already have customers and coworkers and an established way of doing things, there's more context to consider. It doesn't have to feel like this though. It doesn't have to be high stakes, drama, and trying to stuff a couch up a narrow stairwell. If you're smiling, you know what I'm talking about. The discovery process can be engaging and dynamic because it is. It can be fun. You can feel like this guy. Today we'll talk about ways to use discovery to focus on what's important, to empower your team, and to make tangible progress. So let's get to know each other a little bit. Where are you on your journey? Are you envisioning your North Star? Are you exploring an opportunity? Maybe you're in an active planning stage or already building your product. No matter what option you picked, you are in what's commonly called discovery. Because in a clean textbook fashion, we would do one thing, then the other, and the handoffs would be seamless. But reality is much different. It's not quite so linear. We need to be multifaceted. Things change, refine, and become clear as we learn more, and then we adapt. I've organized our session around tips for gaining traction from wherever you are on your journey. And so, no matter where you are on your journey, take a moment to reflect on your purpose. Why does this idea or product you're pursuing matter? Why is this an important problem to solve? What is the change you're hoping to see as a result? This is your North Star. It's the direction you're heading, the thing that will keep you true to your goals when you're feeling caught up in the daily grind. Now, switching what you're doing and why you're doing it around are some of the biggest mistakes everyone makes, even myself sometimes. It's totally human to get caught up in the excitement of building something. But it's important to pause before you get too far down the path. Because when we find ourselves following what we're building without considering if it should be made at all, we end up down a rabbit hole. It's the same for business initiatives. Maybe you have a nugget of a good idea, but people just don't seem to get behind it and it fizzles out. By articulating your North Star, you give yourself a guiding light, something that other people can see too, something that keeps your idea from becoming the enterprise version of Frankenstein's monster. Once you know your North Star, then you can define what you're building, your vision, your destination. I'd like to give you an example. For that coaching platform I told you about, it was founded by a former pro athlete. And this person realized that the people who work in organizations like you and me had similar expectations to achieve and to grow as he did as an athlete. But they were doing it on their own. Sure, they had access to benefits, but who was helping them level up? His sports coaches would help him with his mental resilience, physical strength, strategy, and skill. He had someone help him blend his personal life with his athletic life so he would thrive instead of getting burnt out. And he would always be working at his optimal performance. He didn't see any of his colleagues receiving that kind of support in the workplace. He imagined a better way, one where people like you and I could receive more holistic coaching so that we could flourish in our lives as well. Like, how great does that sound, right? I bought into his mission, and so did our entire team. It built focus and momentum. Everyone we met along the way was engaged. That's the power of knowing your why. For my coaching client, it was a new way to reach their customers. For another client of mine, it was modernizing their product so they could better position themselves in the industry. When Jeff Bezos started, really Amazon was a way for him to explore ways to invest in the internet. So that's your why. Your why is your North Star. Your what is the product vision. It's your solution. It's what you're building to achieve your why. I'm going to try something to illustrate it. So let's say your North Star is to create the best meal that ever was. One that really hits the spot, you know? Take a minute to think about that. What are you envisioning? How would it smell? How would it taste? Savory, sweet, crunchy? Does it melt in your mouth? Is it hearty and filling, or just a taster like an amuse-bouche? And what's the atmosphere like? Are you inside, outside? When someone eats this meal, how would their life be changed? Are you hungry yet? Your product vision is a bit like building your menu for this meal that you just imagined. It can be a bit ambiguous or hard to put into words. You've got to translate this feeling into dishes and an experience that can be created with the ingredients we can obtain, with the appliances that you know how to use, in the time allotted, and for the people who will be attending. You need to understand if there are recipes already, or are you making original dishes? You've got to go to the grocery store. If you don't hang on to that feeling of the experience you envisioned, it's very easy to get lost when one of your stakeholders says to you, "Mommy, I no like that," which is how you end up with the product that doesn't quite hit the mark, like a bowl of Fruit Loops at Thanksgiving dinner. And so it's important that we find a way to capture this vision you have and make sure that everyone who is helping you understands it as well. Luckily, it's not magic. I have a simple framework that you can use at any stage of the process. Some clients have come to us with the proof of concept already built and are struggling to show their stakeholders what's possible beyond it. And others have people on board but just don't know how to turn it into a real-life product. That is okay. I'm a big fan of starting where you are. I encourage you to build on what you have and discover what you don't in order to create the building blocks for your product. We can shore up your foundation by looking at these core areas: desirability, feasibility, and viability. All of these work harmoniously when you've got a successful product or even a service. Viability seems like an obvious one. Of course you need to build something that makes sense for your business. Or so you'd think. How many ideas have floated across your desk that you can't really tie back to your model? Think of apps like Twitter that had tons of users, but they didn't see returns for 10 years. Do you have that kind of runway? Next, let's consider feasibility. Now, this isn't just about technology. It also refers to your operations. You can't scale without a feasible way to support the business. Feasibility is where you ensure that your assets and investment of time and resources make sense to the value that you can derive from that effort. I've seen a lot of startup teams that pair a business-minded person with a technical person, build something and take it to market. It's a very common way to go. One person sells, the other builds. It sounds like a dream team, but these teams have made a fundamental mistake in leaving out user experience. Because UX is not just about how something looks and feels. User experience represents desirability. It's that angel on your shoulder making sure you're answering the fundamental question: Does anybody want this? That's where desirability fits. It's about who will use this, who will buy it, because they're not always the same person, how much they desire it. So that could be a want or a need, usually a little bit of both, and ensuring that your solution meets that. And that's where you need to start with desirability. That's what user centricity means. It means that you can tie back your decisions to a core value proposition, to someone who has an urgent need for your solution. When you pull these elements together, they form the basis for your product vision. This is the template that I like to use. It includes who your customer is, their desire, what your solution is, and how you'll know you've achieved it, and also why it matters. You'll notice that it is not phrased like a marketing message, but it does contain all of the fundamentals you need to identify in order to gain the confidence of your stakeholders. You can use this structure at any level of detail in your product. But one thing I'd like to sort of mention here is that when you're talking about a future release, you need to be thinking about a desire that people will have in the future. This isn't a today desire met with a solution in 2 years. This is a 2-year vision, and it needs to meet the desire people will have in 2 years. Or if it's a 5-year vision, a desire people will have in 5 years. If it's a 1-month vision, I need the desire to be something that people will have in 1 month. It's also high level. We're looking at the big picture, not specific features. It's important to remember that it's also just a hypothesis. Every line of this is testable so that you can ensure it's the right path forward for you. Does this customer segment have this need? Does this solution match it? How will we know we're successful? And how does this support our mission? Okay, let's use Star Wars for example. You can get really big with it and look at it from the entire saga, all the TV shows and movies and cartoons. Essentially though, what we want to make is a destroy the bad guys product. So we are the Rebel Alliance. Let's exercise our imaginations here. Our targets are the citizens of a far, far away galaxy who are fed up with living under Imperial rule. And we think we can help them by destroying the Sith. Those are the bad guys. And we'll know we're successful when we see democracy in the galaxy. This supports our bigger mission of bringing peace and freedom to the galaxy. So you have this product vision statement. You know you want to build a destroy the bad guys product. And the next step will be able to break that down into reasonable steps. But what if intergalactic is not the level you're thinking? This format can work at any level of your product. So let's go a bit smaller. Let's consider one of the TV shows like The Mandalorian. Have you seen it? If not, in a nutshell, Mandalore was one of the planets the Empire destroyed, and all the survivors scattered and became homeless. So anyway, The Mandalorian is not the whole thing. It's not galactical, but it's not small either. And when we're more specific, when we just think a little bit more specific, we can get a little more specific about our target audience and what they need or want. So now our product is just a little bit smaller too. It's a little bit more reasonable to build. So we're not looking at the whole bad guys and everything. Let's just chip away at them a bit. So we have this rebuilding the planet solution. And we have a different measure that we can track. And you can see that our North Star hasn't changed. What we're doing still matters because it serves our mission. And I want to reiterate that there's not one right way to build a product or achieve a vision. There's just finding the right starting point where what your customers care about overlaps with what you care about. This simple framework helps you to test that. Do Mandalorians want to go home? Would they like our help rebuilding their planet? Can we feasibly do that? Test and refine this product vision so you can create confidence and alignment between all your team members on what you're doing. It's really the first phase of prioritization. And it's what they talk about when people say MVP. Every little experiment that you're doing, all those little market tests, is a minimum viable product. So let's use a real life example. We're going to use Manitoba Blue Cross, a regional benefit provider that I worked with recently. They wanted to target anyone in Manitoba, not just people with benefits who are interested in improving their overall wellness. That's a great place to start. As a user, I want to improve my wellness. Maybe I'm an avid wellness pursuer, maybe I'm a beginner. For Blue Cross, they wanted to be able to serve people at many stages of this cycle. And instead of serving just one aspect of wellness very deeply, they wanted to take a broader, more holistic approach. And that's testable. Do people want to improve their wellness with a holistic approach? And we can take those findings and apply them to our roadmap or future releases of an existing product. And Blue Cross would know they're doing it right because they can measure it through the way the services are being utilized. It's all good stuff to serve their big, audacious corporate goal of being recognized as the leader of wellness in Canada, not just Manitoba, but the entire country, by offering something new and unprecedented in the market. That was an amazing starting point. We understood what impact they wanted to make, what their idea was, and why it mattered. It was clear enough to get feedback and start crafting a plan, and loose enough to be able to move forward without knowing every detail. We could figure that out. It provided enough direction for our team and their internal teams to continue forward in the next step. And we could figure out what features would make sense and in what order they would make sense to bring this wellness platform to life. There are many ways to get a product vision down, but I like this format because it's testable and low fidelity. Sometimes, though, you need to create a bit more momentum for what's possible. So I'd like to show you a clip from this video Apple created in 1987 to share their vision for the future.
You have 3 messages. Your graduate research team in Guatemala, just checking in. Robert Jordan, a second semester junior, requesting a second extension on his term paper. And your mother reminding you about your father's
surprise birthday party next Sunday.
Today you have a faculty lunch at 12 o'clock.
Wow, right? You can totally see many of these ideas came to fruition. There's the way the computer opened and closed like a book, and the talking assistant. There's messages and phone calls and search. You can totally see the inspiration. You can also see in the video how he anticipated what user need would be met by this solution. Being able to talk to a computer like a person, managing a busy calendar. But Apple didn't start building that. Why not? Why didn't Apple create Siri or the MacBook in 1987? Because that's nuts. Yeah, this is like 5 products in one vision. It's super big. The technology wasn't there, and the market definitely wasn't there yet. Would you have put down your rotary house phone and pulled up DOS prompt on the home computer that you probably didn't have to talk to artificial intelligence? If you could have? And many of the items from that video were created one at a time, one product vision at a time. A MacBook, a virtual assistant, search. All of these products were based on what was feasible, desirable, and viable at the moment. The product vision helped create momentum and a guiding light as Apple worked towards bringing it to reality. And you could see the evolution over time. With each release, they learned something from the market, incorporated and even pushed the limits of technology, and strongly influenced the market conditions that would make the Vision Pro they announced recently a possibility. Now, this is an extreme example. That's been nearly 50 years in the making. I've had clients come to me with a deck or just a spreadsheet. Sometimes they'll come with wavy hands and excited eyes. You don't have to know the future. You don't have to have it defined in order to start. But we can learn from Apple's example because even they had to prioritize where to start. Are you familiar with this graph? It shows this life cycle of customer adoption for a new product. Probably informed by Apple's trajectory to some degree, but you can see how they would have built up each product with this kind of momentum. This same life cycle applies to your digital product as well. Everybody starts at the beginning. Once you have your product vision, you need to realistically assess where it might fall on this map. Who actively needs what you're thinking about? Or is this something that they might grow to need, like how Apple started with the iPod and eventually the iPhone and iPad? What part of your vision might appeal to someone actively seeking this new technology? Is it an existing customer, a new customer, or maybe even it's a stakeholder that you already have within your company? Who has the problem that you're solving? Who is a friendly face that you could trial your idea with? This is your enthusiast, shown in purple. This is an important segment, a vital segment, because it's going to start to give you some real data from real users. As you grow, you'll start to realize who really needs your solution and why. These are your early adopters, and it's where you'll start to get some movement in the market. That's the advantage of starting small, because even if you're not 100% certain of your idea, or even if you are 100% certain, you can't learn anything or make any money until somebody uses your product. That's user centricity. Once you do learn something, you're off to the races, and that's where you might meet this gap we call the chasm. It's the leap your company needs to take in order to connect with the audience at large. So much goes into jumping the chasm. It's about market fit and timing. It's about a product that meets someone's need. It's about having the framework in place to scale. Not all products make the leap or have the patience to, but it's not up to chance. We can work with the track conditions to maximize our jump. Online's customer experience expert Paul Vieira says the best story wins. And the reason it wins is because it strikes at the heart of something that people desire. A good story will get you in the door. But to keep your clients, your product has to back that up with substance, with features or experience that address what the user wants to get out of it. By continually learning from your customers and adapting to what you're learning, you can right-size your efforts and plan to jump the chasm, like a skateboarder who knows they need enough momentum to make a big jump. And we do this by continually testing and refining our product vision. As again, even if you're 100% certain, you really don't know what it will take to meet the market until you have something in the market. Even as an enterprise, you have to find a way to be quick and lean, which might look different for you than a startup, and that's okay. You just want to make sure that you're maximizing on the market and reducing risk that your investment won't match the value that you can derive from it, which is based on those three fundamentals we talked about earlier: desirability, feasibility, and viability. Drake gets it. I'll give you an example of how reviewing your product vision regularly can help your investment. So that coaching client I met was actually a hybrid startup, meaning a startup within an established organization. They built a digital coaching platform that we just launched. They wanted to add on to their organization's services, big and yet very clear goals for this coaching platform. A few months into building it, they realized that they had an opportunity to partner with someone and reach an entire segment of the market that needed this product now. They jumped from finding people with the need to a pipeline of customers. Can you guess what happened next? Yeah, we had to regather. While the North Star was relatively in alignment with the other organization, the product vision changed. Their core customer changed. What was possible for them had grown exponentially, and we needed to reevaluate their vision and adjust our roadmap because we had different customers, different employees, different allies, and different partners. But we wouldn't have known that we needed it if we weren't continually learning. Are you a hockey fan? It's kind of like when a hockey coach would say, keep your head on a swivel. If we had just kept building with our heads down, we would have missed the early signs and opportunities. But our head was up. So I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The industry has tried to destigmatize fail as an F word, but nobody really wants the big F on something they've invested a lot of time and money in. So let's turn it on its head, because small F failures can be like guiding hands leading you to success. Everything, and I mean everything, boils down to these two questions. I swear these two questions have changed my life. What do I need to know now, and what can I learn later? By sifting what I need into these two buckets, it helps me to focus throughout the entire process to make sure we're not going down any rabbit holes too soon. What do I need to know to start today? What step can I take? Will the decision I make today impact me down the road? And can I accept those consequences? You can use these questions anywhere through the process, but I find it incredibly helpful as you begin to prioritize your product vision into the roadmap. So each release in a roadmap is planned based on what we need to learn now and organized by what we can learn later. Now, you can only really plan as far as your headlights reach. So at this stage, my advice is to make your best guess at what is beyond your roadmap, something I call maybe like your fast follower, and drive accordingly. You can drive faster as you're more confident with what's in front of you and slower as you aren't. As you move, your headlights reach a little further and you can refine and adjust your roadmap. It's not set in stone. I made this one in PowerPoint. Having a clear vision statement really helps your team have a meaningful prioritization discussion around your roadmap. And it's those same fundamentals that we've been talking about. What is the most urgently desirable thing for your user? What is the most feasible to get to market? Which includes, who are you bringing along the way with you? What do they desire? What would create the most value? If you're building towards a vision, the outcome needs to be focused on what you want to learn. And when you have that, you have something you can start designing. You can craft the user journey, start wireframes, explore specific technology. If you start going too far down the path with just a little bit of grounded thinking, things become a bit unwieldy. Everyone's making assumptions and just not sure how to support you. You might see a lot of nodding, or maybe you get a lot of spreadsheets, but it's going to be hard to get any traction. You might find it hard to connect with your customer because your solution is just not matching their current need. By starting with your North Star and using that to define your vision, and then breaking your product vision down into reasonable, testable goals, you give your team something they can rally around, your stakeholders something they can confidently approve, and your allies ways to support you, and your customers ways to engage with you. And you give yourself the freedom to grow and the grace not to know everything. You can plan to learn. Maybe you feel like you can't stop learning. When your learning has become a spiral, we call that analysis paralysis. Today, we talked about a few things to overcome analysis paralysis and help you build the foundation for a successful product. We started with articulating your North Star, your vision, and your roadmap to align your team. We talked about the core areas you need to understand, what your users desire, what your business needs, and what you can feasibly build to reach that. And how to craft a path forward that increases your speed to market, your success in the market, and maintains your sanity. So given that, what's the next thing you should be looking at? What do you need to know now? We'd like to help you take a confident next step in your product journey. We've created a product vision workshop for you. We'll talk about your big idea, understand where you are in the process, and recommend the next step for you and your team, the right next step. If you're interested in the workshop or have any questions about the content you've seen here today, please fill out the contact form below. If you're interested in more content like this, give me a follow on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.